Welcome to each one of you here for this for the second session on our Building Back Better series. And today we are doing this session, this very important session on digital accessibility. The UNCRPD, the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, also the Right RPWD Act 2016 makes it very clear that we need to provide education, awareness, information, and entertainment in accessible format. When you're talking about information in the media, it has to be acceptable by all. So use of whether it's audio or visual or tactile or subtitling or captioning or all text. There is a lot that we need to know, that we need to disseminate to the public so that they become more inclusive. And I'm extremely happy that we are having this session today with Growth Collective on digital accessibility.
Yes, in today's lecture, I would like to explain you how the person with a disability interact with the computational services. In today's world, general accessibility challenges, person with a disability cannot interact with the user interfaces. What kind of adaptation we have to make the thing accessible is use of assistive technology and reasonable modification in interfaces. Reasonable modification meaning here is let us assume that person who having a low vision, they are using the website, while they will make the modification in interfaces, such as they might be use the high contrast mode. So while doing the testing, we have to test that website or particular software application, that each and every element should be visible on high contrast mode also. And we can say person who having a reading dyslexia, here they can use the modification in such a way that they will increase the space between the character, so that user interfaces will we can say adopt that challenges. First, disability is a blindness. Let us take the example Rohit. He is creating his job profile on a Naukri.com using the screen reader software. The constraint about the Rohit is he can't see the screen and he can't use the mouse. The adaptation is we can make the Naukri.com accessible, and in a such a way that it should be worked with different kind of assistive technology, while making the Naukri.com profile accessible. They have to give the informative alt text for images. After that, each interactive component was there. They have to verify like a proper label was there or not. They have to verify keyboard navigation is working properly or not. They have to verify whether keyboard trap is there or not. They have to verify if video was there, then there should be alternative description of audio is there or not. So person who having a, they have to think about all kind of disability while making the accessibility with respect to WCAG. Next kind of disability is a low vision. We can take the example. Yes, one like Rupali was there. She having a low vision. We can say the screen magnifier was there, and she wants to order the food on Zomato. The adaptation is we that Zomato app should be accessible in a such a way that she can use and she will feel the comfort while doing that, while using that app. Next is all text must pass the contrast guideline against the background. For non-text content, there should be a 4:1 or like contrast ratio was there, and we have to check whether links, buttons, and control must have the visible focus and should have the visible hover state. Okay. Now next is person who is a deaf plus blind. Okay. Let's take the example. Kritika is a deaf and blind person reading news article in on web using the refreshable braille display. Braille display is, we can say, it is the device where the person will feel by using the touch feel she will able to Kritika will able to read that what she will able to touch, and she will able to guess guess what which character is there, and she will read the news like that. Okay, adaptation is all the consideration for the blindness and deafness should be applied. Now next topic I would like to say the document accessibility. Document accessibility is the same like the web accessibility, where we are giving the alt text for images, where we are tagging like the headings, and where we are tagging the list. And document accessibility covers all kind of documents such as ppt, pdf, and word document.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the warm welcome and having me join here. Social media, this particular topic and accessibility in digital media is really a buzz. There are about 10 million deaf people here in India, living in India, probably more. We can safely say that. And when it comes to access, quality of education, there are only 2% of the deaf people here in India. So 98% of the deaf children are not getting any quality of education. So any content, any information related to any language, be it in Hindi, English, etc., is never accessible, never understood by a deaf kid. Why? Because the schooling system here in India, so many children, they are trained to learn how to speak, and forced oralism, and more energy is given on fixing the problem instead of actually focusing on language development. So again, India, the challenges are so many, because one, we are a country of languages. America, there's just one or maximum two languages, Spanish and English. And again, when you come to India, the languages are too many. So when I came to India from US in 2016, I wanted to learn Indian Sign Language because, of course, I wanted to respect the country, the language they use. So I was looking on Google, just searching on Google, and I could not find any videos on YouTube or anything, that could teach me ISL. There was very, very less videos. Maybe people don't really understand the power of social media here. People don't understand the power of internet, of, awareness and information through media. So when I came to India, I set up a training center for the deaf community, wherein they could come and learn more about their deaf identity, deaf empowerment, and leadership skills. Coming back at the same time, they were already using ASL, American Sign Language. Why? Because there are so many content online. There's so much of content online which is in ASL. But I didn't want that to happen in the country. We want to respect Indian Sign Language. So the first social media campaign that I did here, I am deaf, and what else? The reason why, because so many deaf people here in India they're given titles like HI, hearing impaired, or some people like other terminology, which are wrong labels which we are given. So we would just wanted to show people the pride of calling ourselves deaf. So from there, they could just add what their skill is. For example, from this campaign, we got so over, I can say 2,000 people to respond to us, where they had so many skills which they told us about. So, from that particular campaign, I would say I am deaf, and it showed us so many deaf role models. And at the same time, from there, we saw that, social media is so advantageous that, so many deaf people could actually see each other. And the second campaign that happened was hashtag sign language in schools. Because I had visited over 440 deaf schools all throughout the country, and I saw that it was really sad to see that deaf people were not allowed to use sign language in their own schools. From that particular campaign, it was a hard one. Why? Because we had to add voicing, over voiceover and captions in all the videos, because a lot of hearing people were watching, like for example teachers, parents, they didn't know sign language, just to make sure that they get access that what we are trying to provide. And when we are providing access, we are expecting the same people to do the same thing. One of the biggest challenge was during the COVID-19 pandemic, wherein we, the deaf community, were actually the last ones to get any kind of information that was happening related to health or related to any kind of emergency that was being, be it about the vaccination, anything that was happening. We were the last people to get to know, because TV, radio, etc., all of it, like everyone's just talking. There is no subtitles, there is no sign language interpreter. Only some, once in a while, if Modi, for example, is presenting, then yes, some interpreting will happen. So luckily, we at that time we got in touch with a few doctors, and we asked them to join on our Zoom meeting like this, wherein we called the community to join and listen to the doctors and had the interpreter plus captioning, just making sure that everyone's getting accent. So we started with that. We had over 500, 600, 700 people joining in every time and learning so much about the COVID pandemic and also asking so many questions to the doctors. So luckily, here a million under Enable India, they gave us the fund to support and just to make sure that all the content is accessible for everyone, especially related to COVID-19, in Hindi voice over as well as captions in English and ISL, Indian Sign Language. So all three categories were provided in terms of access. So I hope that this is a learning experience for everyone to remember that we need access here and just add captions to your content.
That the communication that I curate as a content manager, as a business manager for multiple brands, has not been inclusive to begin with. I have sort of neglected an entire community, of course, unconsciously. It didn't even hit me. Firstly, why was this not taught to us? Like, I've done my digital marketing course, I've done my MBA. I follow a lot of influencers, I follow a lot of content creators. This just never came up. Nobody's talking about it, right? And another question was, how hard can it possibly be to make media accessible? I'm a small business, but even bigger agencies that I worked with were sort of not doing this. Then I've grown, I've done a lot of research, and luckily now I know how to make it make my media more accessible. Alt text is basically text that describes an image. Basically categorize it into three categories. The first one is decorative. When the image is just going to make your content look better, there's no meaning behind that image. The second is an example. So when suppose you're talking about mountain peaks, so you use multiple images to describe what the peaks look like. So that comes under the category of example. And supplemental is when the image adds to your point or adds value to your content. For digital creators, within 2 to 10 minutes per post, you're actually making your media more accessible. And the amazing thing about alt text is actually it has more benefits than we thought. Alt text also helps the algorithm to recognize your content better. And also it helps with SEO, which is search engine optimization, wherein it picks up the keywords that you use in your alt text and shows it up in relevant searches. Right? We can't just be using, digital creators can't just be using alt text and not talking about it. With the smaller brands, me being a business strategist, this call is actually in my hands, whether I compel the brands to do it. I can incorporate it in their business strategy. At the end of the day, I mean, a lot of people are just not sensitive and sensible, but you can give them other incentive, right? Like if you tell a business owner that, hey, you're also neglecting a part of sales, because it's not like people with disabilities are not making purchases online or are not consuming your content and giving you those extra views or likes or whatever. Basically, we have to literally tell them as to what matters to them, not exactly, so slyly we can get a lot of people motivated, um and still serve our purpose. So like I said, there are three advantages, right? It's not just making content accessible to more people. It's also making getting up your SEO rating. It's also enabling your algorithm to work in a better manner. So I think if you take that route with certain businesses, it is going to help. Like I said, I've done the work myself. It does not take a lot of time. I'm just appalled that I did not do it. It's something that I'm going to be following. And if I, as a small business owner, can do it, I'm pretty sure these big agencies with 100,000 employees can pull it off as well.